back and we're ready to go. We have not done this in a while, but we're back. This is episode number 45 of the Shutdown Inning podcast. I am Stephen Rissotto here, along with my partner in crime on this. It is Tylor Hall. Tyler, what's going on? How you doing?
Hey, everybody. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I think it's been about a month. I guess you've been prioritizing finishing your college career over the shutdown inning, which is just inexcusable. But yeah, dude, glad to be back talking some baseball with you. How's it coming? And we got what, like 3 weeks left in college?
Yeah, 3 weeks left of college. It's terrifying. There's two assignments that so one assignment, there's an audio assignment that's like pretty close to being done, pretty much is done. And then there are two assignments, and it's good because they're due a week apart. The next one is actually a story on the future of Bay Area sports radio. I got a chance a few weeks ago to visit 95.7 The Game. And Bonte Hill is going to be the main character of that one. Going to talk to Shasky, going to talk to a few of the producers, going to talk to, people at KMBR. So it's gonna be really good. I'm looking forward to that one. And then my capstone project, I can't graduate with a journalism degree if I don't have a capstone project. And that one is going to be something related to enrollment at San Francisco State. So that one's more boring. I'm not as invested in that one, but it's technically the more important one. Because I did this thing. I don't know if we have any college people listening, but we do Canvas. Canvas is the site where all the assignments are on. And there's this thing where you could put in your grade. You could put in any grade, like a what if grade. Like, what if I got a zero on this assignment? Like, what will my full grade look like? And I've been doing that. And if I get zeros the rest of the way in this one class, I will still finish with a B. So I won't get zeros, but I've been doing the little what if feature. So I'm in a good spot there.
Nice. Well, you're not as invested in that assignment, but we are invested in the shutdown inning.
Yes,
So, best of luck the next few weeks, buddy. Look forward to you graduating. And you ready to talk some ball?
I am ready. And by the way, at graduation, the first thing I will say when I get my diploma on stage is, well, I think I shut it down again.
There you go. Nice. I love it. Yeah, so we'll open it up. I mean, one of Steven's favorite topics, players younger than him in Major League Baseball, and two of the biggest ones, the first one and then potentially the brightest star right now, Jackson Holliday and Jordan Walker, both optioned to AAA by their clubs, Holliday by the Orioles, Walker by the Cardinals. Um, what were your reactions to these options?
Yeah, I mean, like baseball wants to see these guys, baseball fans want to see these guys, and it is in a lot of ways disappointing to see them struggle out of the gates because, I don't think anybody out there is arguing that they're busts. It's still very early, they're still very young. But for Jackson Holiday and, let's start with Jackson Holiday. I mean, he's a guy who was hyped up, as the top prospect in baseball, had an unbelievable spring training. There's talk that he should have made the team out of camp. He appears in a game in April. I think that's considered a win. And look, I mean, he was overmatched, but it happens. It happens all the time. We see so many times where, teams, have guys that struggle out of the gates as rookies, as first year players, and he's going to get the hang of it. He's too good of a player. Same thing with Jordan Walker. He got a cup of coffee last season. These guys are too good of players to, sit and be bust for the rest of their career. They're going to figure it out. The team, it's a chance for them to get more at bats in AAA and figure it out. But I think it's a relatively normal thing to happen. The Orioles are really good. There's no reason for them to rush him. There's no reason for them to throw him into this playoff spot um, on a playoff team that's this talented right away. There's no reason to do it. So they could have some leeway to give him some time in AAA. And with Jordan Walker, like he was around last year. He was the first ever one that was younger than me at the big leagues. And we talk about that a lot, but he'll figure it out too. These guys are too good at players. They're going to make adjustments and they're going to figure it out and have long careers ahead of them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that, especially the Orioles being where they are in the standings, they can afford to send him down, let him figure it out at the AAA level. And also, it's going to help these guys' confidence to go down. It kind of shows how crazy the jump is from AAA to Major League Baseball. So let them kind of get their confidence back. I mean, Holiday was 2 for 34. So he's hitting 0.59 at the big league level. And you don't want to let them just squander around too much at the big league level and start losing confidence. So let them get back down, find it, and then when they feel like they're ready again, bring them back up. And the teams aren't going to skip a beat because they're both so talented. I mean, the Orioles more so than the Cardinals, but they both have the depth to be able to send those guys down. It's not like they're banking on their season success is not banking on their performance at the big league level. So
Yeah.
I
And
think,
for
and
both teams, just real quick, like the Orioles, if they really wanted to, they could let him struggle at the big league level because of the talent around him. But at the same time, they're trying to win. And a team like the Cardinals, who are maybe less competitive, they could afford to give Jordan Walker at bats. But then again, it is intimidating, I'd imagine, being at the big league level and facing the type of pitching they're facing. And the pitching this year is really good. And yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think the team's just got to be patient. These guys are all young. Maybe there's a trend into giving players more seasoning at the minor league level. I'm not sure, but sometimes guys get rushed. I'm not saying any of these guys were rushed, but they're still young. There's still time.
yeah, definitely. Um, Yeah, and then I guess, if we wanted to pivot to the next one, another guy who's going to be missing some time at the big league level for another reason, really unfortunate. Mike Trout's gone down kind of out of the blue with a torn meniscus, which is never a good thing. But the Angels haven't really put down a timeline yet. I've seen some reports saying, the best case scenario for an injury like this is 4 to 6 weeks. All the Angels have said is they expect him back this season, which is a pretty broad timeline. But man, it's crazy to think that Mike Trout's becoming kind of like a what if guy almost because his WAR is 80 over 85 already. I think it's like just pulled it up, 86.3 career WAR, which is like ridiculous. But when you look at like the last 5 years, he's hardly played any games. I mean, 2020 obviously a shortened season, but 21 he played 36 games. 22 he only played 119, so about 2/3 of the season, maybe 3/4. Last year he played about half the games, and he was off to a great start this year. Led leading home run baseball and home runs with 10, and just kind of out of the blue, Mike Trout's gone. So I mean, if you look at all those seasons added up, he's missed about 2 seasons worth of games over the last 4 seasons, which is ridiculous. And just that he can still perform at such a high level when he is healthy. It's just that you hope he can put it together and finish his career without getting so banged up. I wonder if they'll ever consider just moving him to DH just so they can keep him in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, this one sucks. This one, I just full disclosure, I've been on a big tear with Ike's sandwiches recently, and I was walking. There's
Full
one right.
disclosure.
Full disclosure, and there's an Ike's next door to San Francisco State, and I was walking with a friend, and we were bringing Ike's back to the newsroom, and I got the news on my phone, and him and I both have Jeff Passan notifications on, and we looked at our phone, and we both at the same time said, "Ah."
Did
Because
that ruin your
it's
appetite? Did you not even eat the Ikes after that? Or
it did ruin my appetite because it's not even one of those injuries where it's like, damn, like it is a damn injury, but it's like, because this guy's battled through so much the last few years. You just mentioned it. I mean, the amount of games missed is so significant, and he's just so he's been a Hall of Famer for years, even before
yeah.
this, like these last 4 years. He was a Hall of Famer even before then. And I think you're exactly right. On that way back from getting the sandwich, we had talked about, you know, him falling into that category with the Griffies, with the mantles on, the
Yeah, I
biggest
was
what
gonna say with
ifs.
Mantle, I mean, he's been compared to Mantle his whole career, and now he's really following in line with it.
Yeah, and this was supposed to be such a big year for him. He was leading the league in homers. I don't know if you noticed, but he was stealing more bases too.
Yeah, six
Um,
bags
six
already.
bags, and that was something that he's been wanting to do. He was stealing more bases, and um, I think if anything, we may have seen the last of Mike Trout, the center fielder. We might see Mike Trout, the left fielder. We might see Mike Trout, the right fielder. We might see Mike Trout, the DH, like you mentioned. But I think we're done seeing Mike Trout, the center fielder. This has been too much, too many injuries for him. He has a back injury that's, probably never going to be great for the rest of his career. It's wild to imagine Mike Trout's 32 years old, almost 33. There's still a lot of baseball left in him. If he could be a guy who could fit in a DH role for the rest of his career and, get you his 25, 30 homers a year, like he's going to finish fine. But this has just been a really, really rough stretch for him. And he's someone that I admire so much. He's the best player of my generation, hands down. Um, Probably the best player I've ever seen. If we're talking about just pure dominance, I know Shohei Ohtani is probably in that conversation. I would rank them 1 and 2 or 1 and 2, either way. Um, it's difficult though. This one sucks because I was really looking. If anybody deserved a good year, anybody deserved a healthy year, it was Mike Trout, and I'm disappointed that he's not going to be able to get that this year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and he's locked up through 2030, so he's got 6 more years after this one. So the Angels have to start thinking long term with how
And
do
he's
we
committed to
keep this
staying
guy on
there.
the field? Yeah,
Yeah.
for whatever reason. But yeah, he wants to stay there.
It's a legacy thing, I think. He sees one team guys and he sees the respect they get. He saw, Joe Mauer went into the Hall of Fame as a twin one team guy. Jeter's a one team guy. There's certain guys that are one team guys and they have just the aura about them, a legacy. And I think Trout wants that. I think he sees the importance of that and he sees the importance of, I think he thinks of it as not wanting to leave, and not wanting to look like he couldn't do it. I think
Yeah,
he takes
he
he
doesn't want
takes
to
a
be a
lot of
ring chaser.
responsibility. Yeah. He wants to do it. He wants to lead that team. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it is one thing that is promising. They haven't put a timetable on it yet. There is that 4 to 6 week window that I read as the best case, and they didn't put him on the 60 day. They just put him on the 10 day. So,
Yeah.
hopefully he's, if he never has to hit the 60, that means he's back, by end of June.
Yeah.
So he'll be back before the All-Star break. So hopefully he can make it back quick.
Yeah. And meniscus is the type of thing where, you could, I have a brother who's an athletic trainer. And he deals with this all the time in high school football and in high school basketball. And it's the type of thing where you could just feel really sore and then find out that something's torn. And it's just super crazy. And this could be a type of surgery where he gets the surgery and 4, 5, 6 days later, he's on a stationary bike, like that type of thing. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see. Hopefully, a good rehab for Mike Trout and a successful surgery. I guess we never really hear when a surgery is not successful. We always hear, "Oh,
Yeah.
Mike Trout underwent successful." Like we never going to hear Mike Trout underwent a non-successful surgery today, and his leg is further messed up.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah,
be
they
bad.
somehow these major league teams always have the best surgeons working on their guys. It's crazy how
Hmm.
that happens. But I'm sure Mike Trout will battle back from this injury, just like the Brewers and Rays battled a couple yesterday. I
Nice.
think it was Abner Uribe and Jose Siri getting into it down the first baseline. Did you see this fight?
I did, and there's been a few I think the Rays we talked about on the last episode, they were involved in one already. Um,
And the Brewers were too with Reese Hoskins and Jeff
yeah,
McNeil.
yeah. So the Brewers and Rays kind of both in their own different things, and now they come together to bring some of that firepower. If I'm not mistaken, because I did see a little bit of it, it started with a Jose Siri bat flip and a home run admiration, right?
Yeah, yeah, off Peralta. Next at bat, they drilled him on a 3-0 pitch. So
Yep.
Peralta got the heave ho. Murphy, the manager, got the heave ho. And then, yeah, it's the kind of the perfect storm. Siri hit a ground ball that took Uribe over to cover first and probably said some not nice things about their moms or something. And they're
Well,
playing the feud.
yeah, those situations and like I say, baseball brawls are funny because the bench is clear and nothing happens rarely, but every once in a while we do get some swings. Whether they
Yeah.
connect or not, there's still swings, and it's
Yeah, I
fun to
mean,
see.
this one, it looked like Siri had some solid swings in there. Uribe was kind of just like flailing his arms towards
Yeah,
Siri.
Siri did have
Um,
some good swings in that one.
yeah, and I went to Tampa a few weeks ago for the Giants Rays series. We haven't recorded since then. And yeah, mine started doing that too. Um, but sorry, Steven showed me something on the screen for those
Yeah, my
listening.
Siri went
Uh,
off.
but oh yeah, because we're saying that name.
Yeah,
That's
you're
what I
trying to
was so
figure out what it
confused.
was, huh?
Yeah, we're having a conversation. Both I have my work phone and my personal phone in front of me, and they both start going off. Um, but Siri's had a hard time for the Rays so far this year. He's not hitting very well. I heard a lot about it when I was down in Tampa, and so I was like, "Hey, Siri's finally getting some hits in." You know,
And by the
but
way, how
yes,
was that trip?
it was a
You
good
go on a
trip, man.
baseball trip every year with buddies, right? You've gone to, I think you went to Minnesota a few years back. You were in
Yeah,
Toronto last year. How was Tampa Bay?
Tampa was pretty cool, man. The people were all pretty nice. Florida, just in its own, is like its own world down there. You know, kind of everything goes in Florida. The Trop is a dump, but you know, I've been the people and you know just the vibes brought it up for me. I wouldn't. I'm not trying to go back to Tampa just to watch Rays baseball anytime soon at the Trop at least. But we had a good time. I put it on social media. I met this old guy named Lou, who's an usher there, who's from the Bronx, and it was the day I was wearing my Willie Mays jersey, and so we just started talking, you know, old baseball. He grew up in the Bronx, and he's like, "Oh yeah, well, Polo Grounds was just a stop away." So he's a Yankees fan, but he'd go see Willie play at Polo Grounds all the time. So we had like me and my buddy had like a 45-minute conversation with him before game two, and we went back to say hi to him before game three and talked to him for like another 5 or 10 minutes. So that was a highlight of the trip too. Got to pet Abreu in the big tank in right
Oh my.
center field. Um, so
Did you
yeah, it was
get
a good.
Steve Irwin?
No, otherwise I wouldn't be here with you, my friend.
Okay, that makes sense.
Um, but
You always seem to meet people, by the way. Like you met Nusher, I think in Toronto. You met the young woman who was drawing in the bullpen.
yeah,
So I mean,
yeah,
you're always meeting people.
yeah, you know, I'm out there having a good time. Usually when you're wearing the away team's gear, you know, people will kind of chirp at you a little bit more, and then you end up finding some cool people to talk to along the way.
Yeah. I was at the
So
Giants game real quick. I was at the Giants game when they were playing the Pirates on the Sunday afternoon. And I wasn't working or anything, but I was there with a friend of mine who has been a friend of mine since kindergarten, really. And we were sitting in the upper deck, and Camilo Duvall was closing it out, and Joey Bart was up in a big spot with 2 outs in the ninth inning, and Duvall was trying to shut it out. And there had been this pirate guy, he was in a Clemente, an old Clemente jersey, and he was just yelling the entire time, Giants suck, Giants suck. And Bart was up. He's like, let's go, Joey. Big moment for you. And then the guy in front of me turned around, and like he had been quiet the whole time. And he looked like the nicest guy. He turned around and was like, this is why we got rid of him. He sucks. And then, like, on the next pitch on cue, Joey Bart strikes out. And then the pirate guy's like, all right, I get it. I get it. And like, he's like, all right, that's it. But the banter like that is just so entertaining. It's crazy.
yeah, I mean, in my travel, like you said, I go on a trip once a year, and for the most part, people are all pretty cool with away fans. As long as you're being respectful and just rooting for your team, everyone's pretty cool. So yeah, we had a good time in Tampa. But yeah, Siri was a topic I heard many Rays fans talking about. So you know, they're a team that's struggling. I know we're going to talk standings a little bit later since we're a month into the season now. The Rays are definitely underperforming,
Oh yeah.
except when the Giants are in town, apparently. Um, but yeah, so it does seem like it's a little chippier around Major League Baseball this year. We've already had like, and we're talking like teams that don't even play each other that much going at it. So it's kind of interesting to see some of this chippiness and some of these, you know, bench clearing incidents, especially so early in the season.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
Doesn't it
I
seem like it's at an uptick a little bit this year?
It does. It feels like every now and then I'm getting a notification that the bench is cleared or whatever's going. I do know that like it feels like there's been more ejections. I think
Hmm.
the umpiring situation, and I know you're gonna get into it, has been a little iffy. There's been some calls that just have not been good in baseball, and um I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. Maybe just tempers are at an all-time high, and it's consistent with, where the world is right now. Maybe we're just unhappy as a society and it's spilling into baseball, but
Baseball's a microcosm of the world.
baseball's a microcosm that's true in a lot of ways, and I wonder if it's bordering upon true in the anger management world. But not saying that anybody's got anger management issues in baseball, but um I don't know.
But yeah, so you know, four people end up getting suspended out of that game, I guess, because Peralta got suspended for 5 for hitting him earlier in the game after the bat flip. Murphy got suspended for a couple games. Uribe got 5 or 6 games, I think, as a reliever. They usually try
Yeah.
to get them a little bit longer. And then Siri got suspended for 3, appealed, got it down to 2. So, you know,
I feel like the appeals
but
you always get like one off usually.
yeah, I think they kind of up it a little bit because I know that they're going to appeal and they'll knock a game off. The only one I don't think, I guess managers can't appeal suspensions. So
Because they're not in the union, or they're not
yeah,
technically, they're an employee of MLB, I think.
yeah. The one that I think will stick is probably Peralta. He got suspended for 5 games, which is kind of the minimum you have to suspend a starting pitcher for. Otherwise, they don't miss a start.
Yeah.
So
And then it's
his will
like, what
probably
good is it
stick,
when you're
but
suspending a guy when he's sitting on the bench
yeah,
anyways?
exactly. He has to stay in the hotel or stay at home instead of come to the ballpark, but his job's the same. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's definitely a chip year. I know you were telling Jeff McNeil to start throwing hands, so I guess the rest of baseball's listening, and we'll see when the next one is. By the next shutdown inning, we'll probably have another one. So
Yeah, it's like Jeff McNeil. He was right there for you, and you yelled at him, and then you tried to go after him once everybody was already there. He
yeah,
was there for you.
yeah, yeah, didn't make a
Whatever.
lot of sense, but we do have some. We talked about some guys, getting sent down, getting injured, getting suspended. We do have some big arms coming back into the game now. Kyle Bradish for the Orioles actually made his first start of the year today. I think it was a little earlier than some folks expected him back. But he started against the Yankees. I think he went like 5, maybe 5 2/3 if I saw right, 1 run ball. So that'll definitely bolster the Orioles rotation a bit. And then Walker Buehler, after a long absence for the Dodgers, it looks like he's going to be activated on Monday, from what I've read, to make his first start since, what was it, late 2022 when he went down?
Yeah, that sounds about right. And I think in September of that year, and he could have come back like at the end of last year, but they really wanted to kind of slow track it with him. But people forget how good Walker Buehler was. Before he was like the ace of this team, and he was my Cy Young pick. Either in 2022, I think it was 2022, he was my Cy Young pick, and that never came to fruition. But I mean, this is just another big arm to add to this Dodger team, and um, you know, they have a good problem to have with this rotation. Um, and I really do believe that Bueller's going to come back. There's going to be some times where he's off a little bit. I think it's going to take time for him to come back, but I am not worried about Walker Buehler being back. He fits right in with Glass now, Yamamoto, Paxton's throwing the ball well. They have a few other guys. I think Bobby Miller's going to come back pretty soon, if I'm not mistaken. He's out with the
They'll get Kershaw back eventually.
Kershaw back eventually. But I believe Miller's coming back soon. I don't know what exactly he has, but all those guys are coming back. It's going to help them quite a bit. And for Bradish, like, this is a really good Orioles team, and their pitching has taken some hits with the closer. I'm blanking on his name, being out with an injury too.
Kimbrel?
No, they have another guy who is just lights out, who's not playing right now. Um, and I'm gonna blank on his name, but it's not Cano. There's another reliever, and his name is Felix Bautista. That's who I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Who is currently on the 60-day IL with an injury. But I believe it's his arm. But yeah, Orioles are exciting. Bradish was a big part of their success last year, and he's a big guy to get back.
Yeah. And I think getting Bueller back, like you mentioned, he was 4th in the Cy Young in 21. But just bringing him back, and he will have, I've been I have him on a couple fantasy teams, so I've been tracking his minor league, rehab stint, and there's definitely been a few. His velocity's down just a little bit, and he's had a little couple rough outings, but he'll get it back. And what's crazy is you reeled off all those names, and next year they're going to add Ohtani to it. So
Yep.
next year they're going to have Yamamoto, Ohtani, Walker Buehler. It's just nuts the depth that they'll have. But I think and for the Dodgers, I think they're going to run away with that division, so they'll be able to kind of pace his innings, kind of work it through, and make sure that he's in a good spot by the time they really need him in October. So
Yeah, good problem to have. Next year, Otani is going to be full throttle. It's interesting because we see Otani, and like, we don't even think about the fact that he's rehabbing his arm right now
Yeah.
while being a full-time DH. He's
Yeah.
insane.
And while just absolutely crushing it. I mean, who would have bet on that?
Yeah.
Zing. But no, I mean, he is rehabbing his arm so he can throw while still just, I mean, basically, if it wasn't for Mookie Betts, he'd probably be like the leader for NL MVP right now.
Mookie who?
'Cause Ayo. Um, but yeah, so it'll be they're going to be a problem for a long time. We've talked about it enough, beat LA and all that good stuff. Um, Part of the reason why Bradish coming back is such a big thing for the Orioles, and I think maybe part of the reason why they brought him back now is because Grayson Rodriguez just went down with some, I think it was shoulder inflammation. Um, so he's going on the shelf. I haven't seen a timetable yet for him. And then also, just because it seems like there's at least a pitcher or two going down every week. Jesus Luzardo also went down with the dreaded elbow. And I think they're still investigating to see what the deal is there. Hopefully he can avoid Tom. Has Luzardo had Tommy John already?
That's a question we could ask for anybody.
Right. I
I'm
have
not too sure.
a buddy of mine who he's a little bit older, so he's been a baseball fan for like 60 years, and he was saying like, I wonder if they'll ever get to the point where they draft a pitcher, they just give him Tommy John and say, take a
Mm.
year off. Let's just make sure that this thing's right. And it might get to that point. It's because you're who hasn't had Tommy John, you know?
Yeah, I know, and it's an epidemic, and Luzardo, and he's a guy that entered into this season with Cy Young odds, and it's Valdez, it's Strider, it's I'm sure I'm missing one, or it's Cole. All these guys have had injuries, and it's the same type of injury. And here's the thing: I can't understand why we are surprised by this. I can't
I'm not
understand why we're
surprised.
yeah, but like it seems like the baseball world is like trying to figure out why this is happening, and it's like, don't we already know that why this is happening? Like I understand that there's it's happening, and maybe if you look at the frequency, it's maybe not different from years past, only that it's the big names this year. But it's
Hmm.
like I feel like I could pinpoint exactly why this is happening. Uh, it's the fact that everybody's trying to max out. It starts from little league. It goes, anything that happens in baseball. And I just did a podcast with Nathan Shin, from San Francisco State, who's a left-handed pitcher here, and he was saying everything that is included in Major League Baseball is automatically spread down through the minor leagues, through college, through high school, and through little league. Just look at it with the guys that wear the Ronald Acuna yellow batting gloves and the yellow arm guard. Like there's kids in little league doing that because they want to be like Ronald Acuna. And if you're a college kid and you're trying to get drafted and you see that the only way to get drafted is to throw 95, 96, you're going to try and throw 95, 96. And
Yeah.
everybody's maxing out. All these starting pitchers, that's why they're throwing 5 innings. Every pitch is going to be maxed out. Everybody's chasing velocity instead of command. Um, and that's great, but I wonder if it's going to turn around at some point.
Yeah, one thing is talking to Lou, the guy
Mhm.
from the Bronx in Tampa. Like I said, we talked to him for a good while, and he said that one of his theories is, back in the day, pitchers threw 60 feet 6 inches. That was like as far as they threw. They weren't playing long toss from pole to pole, throwing the ball 300 feet. Because he's like, if you look at how a pitcher throws, to throw it to play long toss, that's not how they're throwing the ball in the
Mhm.
game. It's a completely different motion. So part of his theory was that's part of it too, is these guys are worried about building up that arm strength so much that they're putting other strains on their arm too. There might be some, you know,
Mhm.
good points there too. A couple weeks ago, right before we almost recorded, and then schooled you. But Verlander had some. I'm trying to remember what he said. Verlander had some really good insight and some quotes on kind of just the arm epidemic that pitchers are going through. And do you recall what he was talking about?
Yeah, it was the same type of thing where everybody's trying to chase velocity, and velocity is something that is now taught. And I think the good stories are the guys like, Shane Bieber, who was a walk-on at Santa Barbara and threw high 80s, low 90s, and had a pretty good breaking ball. And then he gets drafted in pro ball, and then he's being, given the tools to be taught velocity and taught better breaking stuff. And I think Verlander was talking about, just if you want to change this, you got to change the development, in the minor leagues and the development in college and high school and little league. And it's just a follow. It's a one size fits all attitude, and it's a follow me. Look, keep up with the Joneses type thing. Everybody's trying to keep up with the Jones. The guy that I talked to, Nathan Shin, he's hovering 88 to 91 miles an hour. And he's like, you know what? I can't get a look in professional baseball if I don't add another 3-4 miles an hour. So he's like, you know what? I'm not going to play summer baseball this offseason. I'm going to go to one of these labs. I'm going to go to Driveline or Tread or one of these places and try and work on picking up velocity. And I couldn't argue, like, that's what you have to do if you want to pitch now. And it's just completely changed. And I think, a lot of blame is going to the pitch clock. A lot of blame is going, and I think maybe that does have something to do with it. But again, I don't think it's all the blame,
Yeah, I mean, the injuries were there before the pitch clock.
Yeah.
This isn't a last 2 years thing. So
And we also have guys that are throwing sliders every single pitch now. So if a guy has a good pitch, the organization isn't just saying this, okay, that's your put away pitch. They're saying that's your all the time pitch, right? That's why
yeah,
we see guys that have 60% sliders, 60% curveballs. Like, if your pitch is good, you're using it a lot. Look at Keaton Wynn with the split. Look at Gosman with the split. The guys are throwing it over and over and over again. And like Mike Krukow is always saying that the least amount of the fastball is the one that gives the least amount of like wear and tear on your arm. And like, nobody's throwing 4-seam fastballs anymore. And like, this is not me complaining. It's me telling you the reason why this is happening. Because there's people out there that are like, well, why is this happening? It's like such a mystery. It's not a mystery. It's right in front of us.
yeah.
God.
Yeah, I mean, and it sucks because we're losing guys for like full seasons, or Walker Buehler almost a year and a half since he got hurt, and
Yeah.
now he's finally coming back. So, and Strider's having it now, so we're talking like the biggest names. So yeah, it's just sucks to see anyone get hurt, of course, but just like with pitchers, it's never like or very rarely it's like an out for a month or two thing. It's like you're gone, and we'll see you next year if we're lucky, which
Yeah.
is
And I'm
crazy.
not saying velocity is bad. I'm not saying that at all. I just think that,
It shouldn't be the
it's,
focal, the all end all be all of a pitcher.
yeah, it's not bad, but that's why this is happening, is because people are chasing velocity. So yeah, long-winded answer, but
But yeah, we just to move on, Steven can calm down and go get an Ike's here in a little bit. But we are
I
a
had
month
mod
into
pizza
this.
today.
Okay, how was it? What'd you
It
get?
it was good. No, you don't want to know what I got. You're gonna make fun of me.
Did you put pineapple on it?
No, I put it was pepperoni but white sauce.
Oh my gosh. Serial killer behavior. All right. But we are a month into the season. So I think now is kind of the time where you can start looking at the standings. It's still early, but it's not too early. Um, and, anything jump out at you looking at the standings? I know one division in particular you said you want to touch on in a bit, but like I mentioned, the Rays kind of underperforming. I'm surprised to see Boston in third in the East. I'm surprised I mean, we talked about it before the season. I thought the Yankees were getting overhyped because they're the Yankees, but they're hanging in there, just right a game behind Baltimore. Um,
Yeah,
the go
sorry, go
for it.
ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, like, looking at the AL West, the Mariners have gone on a little hot streak to jump in the lead there. But I think the story of that division, well, I guess there's two. The A's 15 and 17, right in the middle of the pack, and then the Houston Astros 10 and 20. I don't think anyone saw that coming, especially after winning the World Series last year.
That to me is the division that is shocking the most. That stands out of anything else. Like the Braves, 20-9. That you could easily go there. That's looking like a pretty predictable division. I could talk about the underperforming nature of the NL West. I think Arizona, Giants, Padres are not doing what they should be doing. LA, I think, started off weird. But to me, it's the AL West. What is going on with Houston? Like, and I'm gonna make a pun here. Houston, we have a problem. Like their season is like they're not coming back from this. Like I know that they're 10 games under 500. They could easily even that up and get to 500, but like you can't win a World Series in April, but you could lose one. And I think the Astros did everything they could possibly do to lose a World Series in April. I don't know what's going on with that team. There's a few guys that are like really good players with Alvarez and Tucker, but Bregman hasn't done a thing. Um, you know, it looks like they're hitting well, but the pitching is just non-existent. Hunter Brown has struggled. He's been dropped on every single one of my fantasy teams. The bullpen has had some tough assignments. Josh Hader's given up 9 earned runs in 12 and a third, 2/3. I don't know what the issue's been with Houston. They've been overmatched completely. And in Oakland, you know, somebody brought this up to me. It's like Oakland has the best closer in the game who throws very hard, and they have an owner that's trying to get him out of town. Is this not
Yeah,
major league?
it's major league, dude. Yeah.
It's major league. It really is. And they are in the middle of that, those two teams, and Seattle's jumping up. I think you had Seattle in this division, right?
Yep.
So that's been impressive, but I would say that's the most shocking thing when I'm looking at these standings. And I guess maybe a little bit of the Rays. Tampa Bay like always never looks amazing on paper, but they're usually above 500, over the course of a
Hmm.
season. But I would say it's definitely the AL West that sticks out.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing really quick, because it seems like we talk about the A's a lot, and it makes sense geographically with where we are, but A's fans have doing a great job not going to the Coliseum, but showing up in other stadiums when the
Mm,
A's are on the road. I saw the other day, I forget where the A's were, but a friend of the program, Hot Dog Hal, was there, and he met a guy who has been a season ticket holder for like decades. He's refusing to go to the Coliseum this year, but he's going to all 81 road
I saw
games.
that. Yeah.
That's amazing. I still don't know if I'm going to try to go to the Coliseum one more time. I grew up there going a lot as a kid, but I also don't want to give John Fisher a dime. So we'll see if I make it down to the Coliseum one more time. But
I'll go with you. I'll buy the ticket. And I know that like doesn't help the cause, but I will buy the ticket and we'll go.
all right, let's do it.
Even though I don't
But
want to give him money, but yeah.
yeah, they're paying for your last semester of college, dude. You're
Yes.
like the third highest paid guy on the A's payroll.
I am right there I'm being paid higher than Mason Miller.
But yeah, and then yeah, so it seems like a lot of the surprises are in the American League. Like you said, the NL East is looking pretty normal. The Central in the NL, I mean, we talked about it preseason. That's kind of one of those divisions you could probably just throw them in a bag, shake them up, and pull them out. The Pirates did start out really hot, but they've gone on a skid as of late. So they're kind of trickling their way down to the bottom, as I think a lot of people thought. But those top three teams, especially, I think a lot of people could see in any order: the Brewers, Cubs, and Reds. And Brewers are performing a little better than I thought they would thus far. But um, yeah, so we're there, man. We're starting to have some standings to look at, some baseball to talk about, and have enough kind of examples and history in the tank to start seeing what some of these teams really are. So it's nice to have that depth into the season now.
Yeah, Memorial Day weekend is kind of the indicator on everything kind of. Once
Yeah.
we get to Memorial Day weekend, I think there's a stat where like 75% of teams who are leading their division at Memorial Day weekend end up winning their division. So, maybe we'll see that turn out to be true, but I mean there's a lot of teams that got to step it up.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see how it shakes down. We'll look at around whenever we record after Memorial Day. We'll take a peek, see how
Yeah.
we'll make our predictions then, I guess.
Yeah. We'll see if I messed up that stat. Spencer's going to
Um
call me out. Hi
so
Spencer.
what's up, Spencer? Thanks for listening, dude. Should we take it up to the three up, three downs?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All righty. So yeah, we'll start with the downs. We like to finish on the high note, as we say every week.
Ah,
Uh, so I've got the downs this week. I'm going to start with Hunter Wendelstedt, umpire. he's had a rough few weeks. I mean, there was that incident probably about what, like a week and a half ago now, that he threw Aaron Boone out because a fan yelled something from the stands. And
You
then he
suck.
tried to make up an excuse afterwards, saying he thought it was from the far end of the Yankees dugout, which is just completely crazy. He never even looked down there. Um, and then, Rob Friedman, you might know him, is the pitching ninja. He's gone almost like full throttle on Wendelstedt. He called a game yesterday or the day before where he showed like the grid of where the pitches were. I don't know if you saw this, Steven, and there was like three pitches in one at bat, like 5 inches off the plate outside, that he called strikes. Um, I mean, he's definitely making almost a single-handed case this year for robot strike zones. He's just I mean, umpires in general, for the most part, they're all really good at their job, but the bad ones, they just give umpires a bad name. And Wendelstedt's having, I don't know if it's just an off year or what, but he's having a rough go so far.
Yeah, starting with the Boone thing, because we didn't touch on that. Nobody is angry. Maybe at the time and maybe a little bit after, but nobody held anything against Jim Joyce. He made a mistake. He owned up to it. People appreciated the fact that Jim Joyce owned up to blowing Armando Galarraga's perfect game. And Galarraga, in my mind, has a 28 out perfect game, as far as I'm concerned. But Jim Joyce admitted he was wrong. Hunter Wendelstedt, I think Aaron Boone would be 1,000% okay. All Yankee fans would be 1,000% okay if Hunter Wendelstedt came out after that game and said, I messed it up. I looked at the replay. Aaron Boone was not saying anything. I should not have ejected him. He didn't do that. He doubled down. He
Yeah.
doubled down. And then Major League Baseball had to come out and say, yeah, that was a bad ejection. Hunter messed up. It's like when your own employer, like, that's embarrassing. And I hope that's like a wake up call. Obviously, it wasn't if he's continuing to not umpire well. But nobody would have cared. I mean, Aaron Boone getting ejected is not going to be the end of the world for the Yankees. Like they were fine in that game, probably. It happened early. It happened like in the first inning, like 5 pitches in.
Yeah.
So like if he had just apologized, like we as a human society, like we appreciate when people own up to mistakes. Like it is one thing that we acknowledge and we respect. And we would respect Hunter Wendelstedt if he owned up to that mistake, and he didn't. He doubled down, and then he looked stupid because when he doubled down a few hours later, MLB had the statement saying Hunter was wrong. Um, but the strike calls, I mean, you're never going to escape that until a complete overhaul happens. I'm not endorsing it. I'm not saying no to it, but like that's just going to be like they're human. Like they're going to mess up. But it just so happens that it happens for Hunter in a not a good year, not a good start to the year.
Yeah.
But own up to your mistakes, please, big league umpires, because we could literally feature you as a down every single time we do this.
Yeah. That's accurate. We'll try not to, but that was a pretty big one. So I had to hit it there with the down. Down number two, Jose Abreu, former American League MVP, optioned to AAA by the Astros. We talked about the Astros just a few moments ago, how far underperforming they are. But one thing I will give Abreu is I think he could have rejected the assignment and just become a free agent. And he said, "No, I need to work on some stuff. I want to be here. I'll take the assignment. I'll go down to AAA." The GM and the manager both said that he was like fully on board and understood. A guy of that caliber who's won an MVP before, the ego could definitely get in the way there, and he's not letting it. But anytime you have a guy that you're expecting to help anchor a potential World Series winning lineup getting optioned to the minors, I think that warrants a down in my book. So
Yes, 3 years, $58 million for Jose Abreu to sign with Houston, um, and it has not done good at all. And I was surprised by a few things. I was surprised by number one that he's 37. I was surprised by number two that he was even able to get option, but then apparently without he had to have consent to go down, or he had to have the team had to have his consent for them to send him down. And I believe he's got one more year remaining off for his contract, and it's 19.5 million owed in 2025. If you were to release him, it would, which ultimately I think they will release him. I don't expect this to work out at all. Um, and it's gonna cost them a lot. But it sucks when this is happening because it's embarrassing for the player who, like you mentioned, is an American League MVP. Had an amazing run in that shortened 2020 season with Chicago. He's kind of had a really nice career in the major leagues after coming over from Cuba. He was a star in Cuba, a star in the WBC, all that. And, this was happening last year where, I drafted him on a bunch of fantasy teams. And I bring up fantasy a lot because that's how, in a lot of ways, that's how we keep up. And he was struggling. And he's one of those guys that you ended up cutting, very shortly after. And he had a 680 OPS. And because of his good team, he still ended up driving in 90 runs somehow. But yeah, it wasn't working. He was 7 for 71 with one extra base hit, no homers, 3 RBIs, 18 strikeouts, wasn't walking. It was a mess for him. And, he had a 269 OPS. 269 OPS. I see them releasing him or doing something or DFAing him. I don't think it's going to work out. And hopefully he gets another shot because 37 years old, Jose Abreu, always a professional at bat. I'd take him. But he's got to figure
Yes.
some things out first.
Someone will, if he does get DFA'd, someone will pick him up because they'll just be on the hook for the prorated league minimum.
Yep.
So he'll get another shot somewhere. And then down number 3 for me, I'm going, sorry to our Giants fans listeners, I'm going Blake Snell. Rough start to the season, a rough delayed start to the season. ERA 11.57. At one point, Tyler Fitzgerald pitched in a game that Snell started, and his ERA was only like a point or two higher than Snell's at the end of the game. And now he's on, kind of out of the blue. He ended up going on the injured list with, I think it was an adductor strain.
Yep.
Is that what it was? Yeah. And I know you're kind of at the ballpark a bit. Have they even talked about timeline yet for Snell coming back?
He threw a bullpen, and at first it sounded like it might be a few weeks. Snell had this injury before, but he threw a bullpen, and it could maybe be a little bit more than the minimum stay on the injured list. So that's kind of interesting. But he could come back sooner, but they have not gotten any production out of that rotation spot that Snell is in. Even the guys filling in for him have been horrendous. If you look at I think Fitzgerald has pitched in 2 Snell starts, if I'm not mistaken, or 2 times when that spot has come up. And he the strikeouts are there. It's just he's getting hit. And if he has an unbelievable second half, an unbelievable time when he comes back, this is all forgotten. He's notoriously a slow starter, but to say it's been encouraging is not true because it hasn't been.
Yeah, definitely not. And, there's going to be a lot of people who say, well, he didn't have spring training, so that's why, or he, started the season late, so that's why. I mean, we'll never know the answer to that question, but obviously he's going to need to get right for himself and for the Giants once he does return. Otherwise he'll be in orange and black next season because there's no way in hell he's going to opt out if he keeps pitching like this. So, it's been frustrating to watch as a Giants fan, just personally, but hopefully he can just get somewhere close to that Cy Young form when he gets back to really help the Giants there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, should we go to ups?
Let's do it.
Let's do some ups. Starting with John Sterling. John Sterling, the longtime voice of the New York Yankees, has retired. Retired a few weeks ago. And he's a staple in New York sports media with the New York Yankees. There's a long stretch spanning over 5,000 games where John Sterling didn't miss a game. He called every single game of Derek Jeter's career. He was just instrumental in those championship runs. He was known for the catchphrases, Yankees win, the Yankees win. And, he had the home run calls and burn, baby, burn, and an A-bomb from A-Rod. And Teixeira sends a text message, and El Capitan, and it is Judgment Day. And I could go on and on with Godzilla, Hideki Matsui. And it is high, it is far, it is God. But he was not everybody's cup of tea, but he was a staple in New York, play by play on the radio with Susan Waldman. He'd go, and when I got satellite radio, like a lot changed for me when I got satellite radio when I started to drive from school and to school, mostly from school. And I got a chance to listen to some of the other radio broadcasters, and John Sterling was one of them. And I would always hear it, well, thank you, Susan. And like he would go into like he would go into like just the way he would call. He's gonna be a 1-0 and low. Like just the way it just sounded like an old style. The pitch swung on and hit in the air to deep left. That ball is high. It is far. Like it was just so good. It was so catchy. He had his catchphrases. Last year he got hit in the face by Justin Turner and didn't skip a beat. That was iconic. Um, but when you get to 85 years old, I don't blame the guy. He's done enough. He could retire whenever he wants. And he did. And he's got,
The
when
yeah,
you retire at 65, like you got some time left, but when you retire at 85 years old, like it's different. And I think that that's something that John Sterling realized like heading into this year.
yeah. I mean, the timing was just a little weird because it was like what, a week or two in after the season started.
Yeah.
Do you think he decided in the offseason he wanted to retire and but he just didn't know that like last year was his last game, so he wanted to do a few this year just to enjoy the moment of calling his last game?
I don't know.
They
Yeah,
haven't
I don't
really
know.
they haven't really said a lot around the timing
Yeah.
of it. It just seemed really strange, but yeah, I mean, if you're a baseball fan, even if it's just,
Mhm.
watching MLB Network, they'll play the replay with like his call on it. You've heard it.
Yeah.
And you just did a great job impersonating it for a few minutes. And it's what was Stanton's? Was it like a Giancarlo Giancarlosian blast or something like
I
that?
forgot what it was. It was like
Um,
Stantonian.
yeah.
But he did the Puppy Bowl too for a lot of years, um, and he was, again, not everybody's cup of tea. And like later in his career, he did mess up. Like there's a ball that Stanton hit off the wall, and he's like, "It is high, it is far, it is gone, a Stantonian blast," and like as Stanton standing on first base, and it's like, oh no. And there's another one where it got really hard for him when the broadcasters couldn't travel in 2020, and they had shown a replay of Aaron Judge hitting a home run, and he had called the replay. He called the replay, and he's like, "It is high, it is far, it is gone." And then like Susan Waldman had to go like, "No, that's the replay." And he's like, "Oh, that was a replay of the home run." So, um, looking at the monitor was not fun. But yeah, 85 years old, it probably just got too much for him to commute to the ballpark. And I think he mentioned that like calling the game wasn't a problem, but more so just getting there and going through the grind of, going on the road. And one thing that John Sterling did not do, like a lot of longtime broadcasters do, is usually when you're at the tail end or you're kind of nearing the end and you got some obstacles, you get limited to only home games. John Sterling never got that treatment. He was doing every single game everywhere till the end. Like, we're watching Kruk and Kipe do only home games mostly, although Kipe travels sometimes. And Vince Scully had that for like the last 10 years of his career where he was only in Los Angeles. And Bob Uecker, I don't even think is even traveling anymore, and he's 90. So like these guys, like usually they get abbreviated before they go off into the sunset, and he never got abbreviated. He was all in, and I think it took a toll. So
Yeah.
that is
But
my up
hey,
number one.
hell of a career. Like you said, calling every game of Derek Jeter's career is pretty amazing.
It's insane. It's insane to think that. My number two one is the B guy in Arizona. Now, in case you guys didn't know, there's a
I think it was two
Diamondbacks.
nights ago.
Yeah, a few nights ago, there was an Arizona Diamondbacks game, and they were playing
The
the
Dodgers. The
Los Angeles
Dodger.
Dodgers. They're not playing one of them; they were playing a lot of them. And there was just a colony of bees, I guess is the way to describe it. And it delayed the game for like 2 hours, and it just swarmed like the netting behind home plate. And the game was about to start, and then the Diamondbacks said, "Wait, like we literally can't start this game until these bees are removed," and they had to bring in like a professional beekeeper. And apparently it was just a grounds crew member who like specialized in bees. and he did the whole thing with the like a vacuum and just vacuum these bees.
Well,
And
it was really funny because they brought him out like on a cart. And so like he's getting like an ovation as they
yeah,
bring him in like in his beekeeper outfit on the cart.
yeah,
He ate it
and
up. He was like born for that moment.
yeah, and he was on the grounds crew, I guess, and like, but he wasn't there that night. He got an emergency call at his son's t-ball game, and he got up, arrived at the stadium, took these bees out, and then when the game like started, he threw out the ceremonial first pitch. And like there's all this media attention for this bee guy after the game, and it shows us like what dummies we are for like this kind of media. Like we eat this up. There's like this is the generation
And
where we
it's
eat
cool.
up
We
just
don't
the
see that. You
stupid.
don't see this shit all the time, man. It's cool, like one-off story, man.
It's amazing the fact that like we make so much out of a little. Like that's one thing that I appreciate about like social media and everything. There's stuff routinely that makes me laugh on there, and this is one of them. Like the fact that this guy, his life changed, and he did his job, and it changed his life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's cool, man. I mean, that guy, I mean, I got a little buzz because I stood up with my, oh, no pun intended for the bees, but I stood up like a letter for like 45 minutes and that like, became a thing online for a little bit. It's cool to, like I said, he was just doing his job, but usually you don't have, a job like that. You don't have TV cameras pointed at you and 30,000 people ready to watch a baseball game waiting for 2 hours. So, he got to be a hero for the night and he ate it up. I think he even did a post-game press conference.
Can we get him on?
Oh, we should try to get B
We
guy.
we have to get him on. We have to get him on.
All right. Hopefully we get B guy. It's on the radar now.
It's on the radar. And then the last one I have, just real quick, since we touched a little bit about it. We talked so much crap about the American League Central going in, and there's one team that just we knew was bad, the White Sox. They're 6-25 at the time of this recording, but every other team is above 500. This is the best division in baseball right now, with the Twins 17-13, Detroit 18-13, Kansas City, who I was high on, 19-13, and then Cleveland is 20-10. I mean, this is quite amazing. I mean, this
Yeah.
is a division that nobody had any expectations for, and they're doing pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, Minnesota's reeled off 10 in a row. And with all these teams above, they're not playing each other and just beating each other up. Otherwise, you wouldn't have any teams like that far above 500. So they're taking it to the rest of baseball somehow. And, you know, this just shows that, this is why they play the game, Steven. Because before the season started, none of these teams would be in this position. And now four of them are. So
Why you play?
shows what we know.
Exactly. So it's so hard to expect these things and to bet on anything unless we're eBay. But yeah. No, I think we shut it down again, Tyler, though. This is a good
We
episode. It's good to be back, and my apologies to you and to all the listeners. I'm almost finished with my college degree, so we're almost done.
Allegedly. I'll believe it when I see you
Yeah,
saying I just shut it down on stage. I need the
yeah,
video.
and
Picture it
then it's
didn't
off to
happen.
grad school. No, just kidding. I'm not doing that.
But yeah, we shut it down, man. So glad to be back. Hopefully it's not quite a month. Hopefully we'll get one in before you graduate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we did it, man.
Shut it down again. Everybody could go ahead and follow us on Twitter at shutdown_inning. Check us out wherever you listen. Go check us out there and see you next time.
That's what's up.
Had a babe.